You wouldn't believe what happened when the man I dated for 6 years got down on one knee with the exact engagement ring I designed and gave it to someone else. Before I share what happened next, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. My name is Renee Caldwell. I'm 34, born and raised just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. I work as a freelance interior stylist, mostly for small businesses that want that Instagram-worthy vibe without hemorrhaging cash. So yeah, I know my way around a Habitat for Humanity store, and I've pulled more than a few miracles with a $60 budget, some peel-and-stick wallpaper, and sheer willpower. At the time all of this went down, I was living in a 2-bedroom condo I inherited from my grandma. It wasn't glamorous, but the lighting was soft and golden in the mornings, and my balcony had this little chipped bistro table where I'd sip dollar store wine and watch the world pretend to be okay. My neighbors were mostly older, retirees who walked their dogs in cardigans and made passive-aggressive comments about recycling bins and HOA rules. But it was home. My home. And then there was Marcus. We met at a community fundraiser for a local animal shelter. He was working the mic, cracking dad jokes like he owned the room. He had this laugh, loud, unbothered, confident. His teeth weren't perfect, but his charm made up for it tenfold. He wasn't wealthy, but he knew how to present himself like he had generational money tucked away in a trust fund somewhere. Ironed shirts. Polished shoes. That kind of magnetic confidence that makes you second-guess your own posture. He worked in IT sales. The kind of guy who could sell a printer to a monk. Marcus had this way of turning every conversation into an opportunity, flipping small talk into a story, a pitch, a moment. It was impressive, honestly. Exhausting too, but I didn't realize that part until much later. For 6 years, we built a life that looked stable from the outside. He moved into my condo about 2 years into our relationship. We split the basics. He paid for utilities and internet. I covered groceries, laundry, and all the little things that aren't really little when you start listing them. I decorated our space like a Pinterest board. He appreciated it, or at least he acted like he did. We weren't flashy. We weren't fighting. We were fine. Or so I believed. The thing about slow-growing cracks is that you don't always notice them until everything's already crumbling. He started getting pickier about my outfits, about the food I made, about how I laughed too loud in restaurants. He'd scroll Instagram during dinner and then casually show me photos of influencer couples, saying things like, "Wouldn't it be cute if we did stuff like this?" Which really meant, "Why don't you look like her?" But I didn't call him out. I didn't want to seem insecure or naggy or ungrateful. So, I convinced myself it was normal. Just relationship static. Stress. Aging. Whatever excuse I could find that didn't involve facing the possibility that the man I loved might be fading. Then came the flea market. I stumbled across this dusty little jewelry design kit buried under a stack of old cookbooks and VHS tapes. It had tarnished brass wire, a few cloudy gemstones, and a booklet that looked like it hadn't been opened since 1992. I bought it for $10 and spent the weekend twisting wire into messy little loops, watching YouTube tutorials, and pretending I knew what bezel setting meant. It became a weirdly soothing hobby, something that was just mine. Marcus noticed. He even seemed supportive at first. One night, I showed him a sketch I'd made of an engagement ring simple band, emerald-cut stone, delicate vintage floral engravings on each side. It wasn't fancy, but it felt meaningful. Like if love could be a shape, that was mine. He studied it longer than I expected. "Babe," he said, "if I ever propose, that's the ring I'd want to give you." My cheeks burned. I laughed it off, but inside, I stored that comment like a treasure. Like a promise. Time passed. He started staying late at work. Said his new boss was demanding. He joined a new gym. Got serious about fitness. Bought cologne he never wore before. Took long calls out on the balcony and came back smelling like doubt. Still, I didn't press. I clung to the narrative I'd built, the one where we were working towards something. I thought maybe he was just trying to level up before proposing. I even convinced myself that maybe the moodiness was nerves. Then I found the receipt. Folded in half, tucked into the pocket of a hoodie he'd left on the couch. A jewelry store. The exact place I once pointed out during a rainy walk through Uptown, casually saying, "They have beautiful stones in their window displays." My hand shook. But not with fear, with hope. I thought it was happening. That proposal moment women talk about in group chats and dream about in traffic. I went and got a fresh manicure the next day. A soft blush pink. Classy. Neutral. Just in case. 3 days later, he said he had to go to Atlanta for a conference. Kissed my forehead on the way out. Left his half-eaten oatmeal on the counter like he always did. I watched him walk to his car from the balcony. Something in my chest felt unsettled. Like static. Like something you can't name but know isn't right. He wasn't in Atlanta. I only found out because of Tessa. My cousin. Tessa had always been complicated. The kind of cousin who knew the gossip before it hit group chat. She was the family version of a walking Instagram filter, highlighted, curated, and always angling for attention. She lived for drama, but never her own. Just yours. We weren't close, but we grew up spending summers together at Grandma's. She was the one who always borrowed your clothes and returned them stained or worse, made you feel small for owning them. But we smiled through it, because that's what families in the South do. You grit your teeth, pass the sweet tea, and keep your judgment inside your Sunday church hat. So when I saw her name pop up on my phone that Saturday afternoon, I assumed it was something minor. A birthday reminder. A casual hello. Maybe some petty comment about how my last post needed better lighting. Instead, I got, "Girl, are you okay?" OMG. Just that. No context. No follow-up. Just panic in text form. I blinked at it for a full minute, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Finally, I typed. "Huh? What do you mean?" No reply. Just the typing bubble flashing and disappearing like it couldn't decide if I deserved the full truth. I barely had time to wonder what she was playing at when another notification popped up, this time from my cousin Mariah. It was a DM. A vertical video. Low resolution. Shaky. Shot at some dimly lit restaurant with string lights and bad acoustics. And in that frame, clear as the day I met him, was Marcus. Wearing the navy blue button-down I bought him at an outlet in Boone. Kneeling. Holding a small black velvet box. And across from him? Tessa. Wearing red lipstick, fake lashes, and a shocked face she must have practiced in the mirror. Tears streamed down her face like she was accepting an Oscar. She nodded. Clapped her hands to her mouth. And extended her finger. And then I saw it. The ring. My ring. The same emerald-cut stone. The same vintage side engravings. The exact design I'd sketched months ago. The one Marcus had stared at with admiration, saying it was what he'd give me one day. I dropped my phone. The thud it made on the floor didn't match the noise inside me. Inside, everything cracked. But nothing fell. I just sat there, on the carpet of my condo, blinking at the wall while my brain tried to catch up with what my eyes had just witnessed. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a performance. And I wasn't even cast as the understudy. My mouth went dry. My hands shook. I felt like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. Some woman in a sad Netflix series. Some foolish side character who ignored all the warning signs because love had made her blind and tired and trusting. But no, it was me. He hadn't just broken my heart. He'd stolen something sacred. My design. My dream. A piece of art I'd imagined in one of the few moments I still believed in love. And he handed it, gift-wrapped in lies, to a woman who once told me I'd never marry up. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up in bed with my phone on my chest, watching the video over and over like pain needed a loop. I didn't cry. Not yet. I texted Marcus the next morning. "How's Atlanta?" He replied 5 minutes later. "It's fine. Boring, honestly. You know how these things are." I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I typed, "Tell Tessa I said congrats." 3 dots. Then nothing. Then he blocked me. No explanations. No apologies. No shame. Just silence. He never came back to the condo. Sent his friend to pick up his stuff 2 days later while I was at a client meeting. Left his house key in an envelope that just said thanks. Nothing more. And, just like that, 6 years evaporated like cheap perfume. A relationship that had taken root in my living room and bloomed through birthdays and holidays and broken appliances. Just gone. Like it never meant anything at all. I packed up every photo, every gift, every note, put them in a shoebox and stuffed it in the back of my closet. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because throwing it out felt too easy. Too final. The sketchbook? That was harder. I looked at it for days before I finally slid it under my bed. Out of sight. Like my creativity could be banished the same way he ghosted me. Weeks passed. Then months. I stopped taking new clients. Didn't have the energy. Everything felt heavy. Fake. I couldn't even walk past a jewelry counter at the mall without my throat tightening. Weddings on Facebook made me nauseous. Love songs made me change the station. My body moved. I functioned. But I wasn't living. I was surviving. One day in early spring, I was walking back from the mailbox when I saw Tessa's face on my feed. She'd tagged the photographer from their engagement shoot. Caption read, "He knew exactly what I wanted." The ring glittered in the shot. Pristine. Smug. Like it was in on the joke. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel sad. I felt angry. But in a clean, focused way. It wasn't fire and screaming and rage. It was cold clarity. The kind that arrives when you've cried enough to stop being soft. And somewhere deep in my chest, something whispered, "You're not done yet." That next morning, I made coffee but didn't drink it. I just stood by the kitchen window, watching the sun bleed through the blinds, painting stripes across the tile floor. It felt like the first day I'd actually woken up since the video. Since the lie. The anger from the night before hadn't faded. It had sharpened. But not into revenge. Into resolve. I pulled the old sketchbook from under my bed, the one I'd shoved away like it was cursed. It was still there, still dusty, still mine. I flipped to the page. The ring design. Slightly smudged, the pencil lines worn from flipping. That simple emerald-cut stone. The curved engravings on either side. A design meant for love. A design meant for me. And even though it had been stolen, worn, flaunted, it still belonged to me. So I scanned it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it at first. I just needed it off paper. In my hands, on my screen. Real. Reclaimed. Then I remembered Liza. She was a jewelry artist I'd met at a weekend craft market in Asheville almost a year ago. We talked for maybe 15 minutes about ring symmetry and vintage rose-cut stones. She'd complimented one of my earlier sketches I was holding at the time and said, "If you ever get serious, hit me up." I'd smiled. Thanked her. Never followed up. Until now. I found her email address on her old business card, snapped a photo of the sketch, attached it with no explanation, and typed, "Hi Liza, would you be open to collaborating on a limited jewelry collection based on a few of my designs? I think it's time." I hovered before pressing send. Then I hit it. She replied 2 hours later. "Renee. Yes. These are incredible. Call me when you can." And, just like that, the air changed. We talked that evening, Liza and I, me from my tiny kitchen table. Her from a studio that buzzed in the background with life and metal and possibility. She loved the story. The rawness. The ring that got away. She didn't ask for details. Just sketches. And so, for the first time in months, I let myself draw. Not for Marcus. Not for the past. For me. I worked at night mostly. During the day I took walks, avoided socials, and poured into myself quietly. I stretched. Journaled. Cried. Sometimes out of nowhere. But I kept moving. Liza and I worked in secret for 3 months. We built a line of 6 rings, each one a reimagination of that first sketch. The Reclaimed Collection, she called it. Every piece told a quiet story of pain turned into power. Each named after something I once lost. We launched it quietly. A small website. Soft visuals. No glam, no ads. Just the work. And still, people found it. Emails poured in. "This one feels like my divorce. This one looks like the ring I deserved. Thank you for creating pieces that don't look perfect, but still shine." It was healing. Not loud, not sudden, but real. Then came the Charleston boutique. Liza had a contact. Said they were looking for local Southern designers for a Valentine's pop-up. She pitched us. They said yes. I almost backed out. But something inside me whispered, walk in your truth. Even if your voice shakes. Even if your hands tremble. So I went. I wore a navy jumpsuit I'd thrifted and tailored. My hair in soft curls. A ring from the collection on my right hand. The boutique was bright. Clean. Minimalist. Exposed beams, delicate displays, white walls kissed by warm light. Customers floated in and out, admiring handmade pieces like they were browsing art. I stood behind the Caldwell and Clay table. Quiet. Observing. Proud. Then, I saw her. Tessa. She walked in with a friend, some woman I didn't recognize. Tall, sleek, dressed like a Pinterest board. Tessa looked the same as always. Curated. Glossed. Loud in silence. She didn't see me at first. But I saw the ring. My ring. Still on her finger, like a badge of triumph. She was gesturing with it, flaunting it with casual authority. They walked past the table. Her friend stopped and admired one of the rings on display. Tessa leaned in and said, just loud enough for me to hear. These kind of look like mine, but not as classy. I didn't flinch. Liza was beside me. She caught it. Didn't say anything. Just watched. Then she stepped forward with a smile. Actually, our lead designer is right here. Tessa turned. Her eyes landed on me. Froze. Everything in her face flickered. Recognition, disbelief, maybe even guilt, but she masked it quickly. You did these. I nodded, calm. Everyone. Silence. Her friend looked confused. I looked at the customer next to them and smiled. Let me know if you'd like to try anything on. We do custom sizing. And, just like that, I turned away. Not coldly. Just clearly. Because that moment wasn't for revenge. It wasn't for drama. It was the moment I'd already lived through in my healing. I didn't need to humiliate her. She already knew. That ring on her finger? That wasn't a trophy. It was a receipt. Proof of everything she and Marcus took. But I had the rest of the collection. Tessa didn't say a word that day in the boutique. She just blinked at me like I'd pulled a rabbit out of a hat, like it never occurred to her that the woman she helped betray might do something more than cry into her pillow. Her friend awkwardly shifted, clearly unaware of the backstory playing out in real time. I didn't speak again. I didn't need to. Because everything Tessa had worn like a badge of victory, a man, a ring, a photo shoot, had just been traced back to me. Not in accusation. In creation. And you cannot shine the source once the lights come on. She left the boutique 5 minutes later without trying anything on. Liza didn't say much, just shot me a little side smirk, like she knew that moment meant something bigger than a sale. That moment was mine. Not loud, not messy. Just clean. Final. The boutique owner asked if we'd consider extending beyond the pop-up. Said customers kept asking about the Caldwell and Clay table. Said our rings had a story people could feel. We agreed on the spot. By summer, we had a permanent glass case in the front display. Then a shelf. Then a custom wall. A blogger from Charleston picked up our line, posted a reel that hit 1 million views in 2 days. Orders rolled in from New York, Seattle, even overseas. I was shipping rings to places I'd never been with designs I once thought I'd buried under heartbreak. We released a second collection. Then a third. I was invited to speak at a local creative women's panel. When the host asked me where I found the courage to start over, I said, some heartbreaks are detours. Others are blueprints. The audience clapped. I blinked back tears. 6 months after that boutique moment, I was in line at a local coffee shop when I saw Marcus. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked tired. Fidgety. Same watch. Different energy. He turned and saw me. There was this awkward pause, like we both stepped into the ghost of what we used to be. He opened his mouth. Renee. I nodded once. Not with hate. Not with softness. Just a hello that didn't need to be more. You look good, he said, eyes scanning me like he was trying to solve something he once miscalculated. Thanks, I said. Then I turned to grab my coffee. He didn't ask how I was doing. But I think he knew. A week later, he emailed me. Subject line, saw the magazine feature, proud of you. I deleted it without opening. It wasn't bitterness. It was just boundaries. That story didn't need a sequel. Meanwhile, Tessa posted less and less. The engagement photos stopped. Then the wedding date vanished from her bio. She started resharing quotes about healing alone and lessons learned. I never asked. Never checked in. Not because I wanted her to hurt, but because I didn't need to prove anything. She still wore the ring for a while. I saw it in her tagged posts, buried under filters and hashtags. But eventually, it disappeared too. Maybe she pawned it. Maybe she took it off when people stopped complimenting it. Maybe it just started feeling heavy. Who knows? All I know is this. That ring was never meant to last. Not because it was cursed, but because it was never meant for her. It was a sketch born in love, buried in betrayal, and resurrected in power. And now? Now it lives in a display case under warm lighting, surrounded by sisters. Each ring a chapter in a story only I could tell. Worn by women who knew the ache of being overlooked but chose to shine anyway. Caldwell and Clay became more than a business. It became a movement. A quiet one. No billboards. No celebrity sponsors. Just word of mouth, quiet strength, and meaning in metal. Women wrote in every week, sharing their stories. Some had left toxic marriages. Some walked away from fiancés who ghosted. Some were buying rings for themselves, not to wait for love, but to mark that they survived it. That they grew through it. That they made it. I started adding tiny inscriptions inside some rings. Things only the wearer would see. Little truths like, not broken. Still standing. She knew. And every time someone slid one on their finger, I imagined a younger version of me watching from the back row, nodding in silent approval. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to go viral or scream or prove I was the bigger person. I just needed to build something real. Something that couldn't be taken. Or copied. Or stolen and passed off as someone else's. Marcus gave her the ring. But I gave the world the collection. And when I walk through the boutique now, past the photos, past the glass, past the quiet awe of customers discovering something they didn't know they needed, I see myself. Whole. And when I pass the mirror on the way out, I smile. Because I don't see a woman who got left. I see a woman who came back. Not for them. For herself. With her own damn hands. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to remember what grace looks like when it finally wins.